Young architect, your design is immaculate. The Father handcrafted it, so what more can I say? Other than, I have seen you grow in stature. I have witnessed your sandcastles grow bigger and faster, scraping the skies, picking at the atmosphere like a fresh scab, high enough to touch the misty vapors that rain down favor, as if the Lord said, "My child, take these clouds and wipe that hard-earned sweat from your brow. Sit down for a while, I got this." You have graduated from the sandbox, and those dunes you used to create have augmented into structures of the highest capacity. Tall towers of sand gracefully swaying to the rhythms that breathe off the waves of the shoreline, as graceful as when raindrops flash mob off a lake's surface. The ripple effects of each step you take tells your story. Now understand, there will be times when you will lead many out into the deep end, far beyond their ability to comprehend the limits of the skies and the invisible faith that lies 6 inches beyond their eyes. And they will say, "Our buckets cannot reach the depths of your wells." And you'll realize that leaders sometimes will have to walk by themselves, where they must sink to depths unknown to merely find that potential, that majestic creature which craves for nothing other than to be released from its confines. Iron bars can stop men, but doubt can stop an army before it takes its first step. And once you find this thing, this part of you whose wings will be strong enough to carry you to the heights of your sandcastle skylights, you can say, "My footsteps have graced the soft soils of ocean floors, so deep beneath the surface that I do not fear heights, I do not fear bright lights, because I was in the darkness for so long that I conversed with it. And I told it that although I cannot see where my next steps are headed, I will continue to walk until my elevations have reached a zenith infallible to the imaginations of surface dwellers." Surface dwellers. Where to walk with your head in the clouds merely means blindly strolling through the fog. You all cannot see me. Young architect, build. Build until your apparatus reaches spheres of stratus, spheres of heights and minimize the lattice. Hashtag 1 in 7 of Timothy's second book. Oh, the second looks and double takes these surface dwellers will partake as you emerge from the oceans and you fly. My name is Dennis Spence, and I'm sitting with the Father's Coach.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Welcome to the Father's Coach podcast. Kevin L. Kelly, I am your host. We are here with Dennis Spence. Oh my God. Did you guys hear this? Did you hear Dennis Spence? He is Delaware's royalty. He is Delaware's royalty. So let me read his bio right now. Dennis Spence, finding a born-raised Delawarean is not too common anymore. While most of his high school, college associates decided to embark on other journeys outside of Delaware, Dennis Spence chose to remain home in an effort to truly impact his community, which he's doing that now. Graduating from the University of Delaware in 2006 with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering, he is currently the traffic safety manager at Century Engineering LLC, where he has been for 19 years. Oh my God, that's a long time. His focus is managing the design of the applications required to ensure safe temporary traffic control measures required to continue mobilization of everyday commuters to keeping us safe while keeping the contractors in work zones within the proximity of travelways safe. A lover of the arts, you just heard that. A lover of the arts, including spoken word poetry, continues to mentor and work with young artists to give them exposure as well as an outlet for their voices and passions to be revealed to the public. Dennis currently promotes and manages his own spoken word poetry event in Dover, Delaware, called The Love Suite, for artists to relay their expression and grow more confident in their craft. I've seen that online.
Yes, sir.
I've seen that. That was awesome. Dennis believes that for a community to truly grow, they must first see the gifts within themselves that they can offer to the community. This requires they themselves to recognize and believe these gifts so they may manifest and benefit their surrounding area, which you actually did the blueprint for. One person at a time, Dennis enjoys helping people to own in these gifts. A husband, a father, Dennis loves spending time with his family the most. He enjoys writing poetry and short stories as his pastime. Let's welcome Dennis Spence to the FCC family. I remember you before you got married.
Yes, sir.
I remember you before you had a daughter. Man, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome and thank you. Oh my God. This is amazing. This is an amazing treat. Wow. We shared a story earlier, and I was just thinking about how when I met him, and I was just thinking about the times that we would sit together and we would go have coffee, we would just meet, we would go to diners and just eat, sit down, and I would like mentor you type of thing, coach, whatever type of thing going on until that one time you were talking about dreaming and you told me to read this book. And I said, okay, I read that, but you said, but in that book, there's also an assignment. Could you share that with the family here?
Yeah. So in this assignment that we talked about, it was called the 100 goals, where pretty much you take a list of, you take 100 lines and you write down right then and there, 100 dreams, 100 goals that you have. And the thing is, the common thing people are going to say is, well, I can't think of that many, but that's not the point. The whole purpose is just to write down anything and everything, no matter regardless of how ridiculous it may sound, no matter how out there it may sound, write it down. And just that alone gives you the things to live up to chase after, to go for, and you can quickly just write them off one at a time.
Wow. We've been good friends for, I want to say about, 16 years maybe?
Yeah.
17 years. And I've watched how you've grown into this man with gray hair.
Yeah, it's coming in, man.
And a married man, give a shout out to your wife, please.
Yes, I do want to shout out to my lovely wife and my gorgeous baby girl, my wife Andrea and my daughter Alessandra, who they are home right now, holding down the castle. I just want to say I love you all dearly.
Wow. It's funny you say castle, because I always, when I see you and your wife together, I see the king and I see the queen. But when I see your daughter, I always see the princess.
Yes, sir.
And I always think about that because kings need to have stuff. Mm-hmm. Kings need kings stuff. We get the word kingdom, right? King's domain. And so when I see you, I always think about, I think of royalty. Like I said, Delaware royalty. A lot of times we say that when we call people royalty, we say that they have name and lights and everybody know them. They go to all the balls, they go to everything. But when I see you, I see how you navigated through life. And your poetry and your core values and just everything about you just I want to say it sounds and it sings royalty, just your core values. So I thank God for that. And I'm glad that we're friends. It's funny, like I said earlier, that I saw when that shift happens. Mm-hmm. When I was like, I'm like, whoa, he's giving me assignments. And that assignment that we talked about that 100 dreams, I give that to my mentees. I give that to also my coaching clients to share, also so they can go outside of their boundaries.
Yeah,
go outside of their.
It stretches you.
It stretches you because you think you're not 100 goals, but you start thinking about. As a leader, you start thinking, well, these are not just my goals may stop at 20, but then you start thinking about, okay, well, what about my sister's goals? My sister want to do this, and then my niece want to do that, whatever. And that's where the leadership shifts.
Absolutely.
That's where it's shifting. Now you start to dream with God for them.
Mm-hmm. The legacies. Indeed.
Oh my God.
If a tree is not growing, it's dying. So that's the goal. Always, forever growing, forever striving, regardless, attempting to do better and be better at whatever it is that you're doing. Always.
Wow. There's these two words called gravitropic and phototrophic, right? Mm-hmm. And so gravitropic is trees or roots that grow down in dirt, gravity, gravitropic. But then there's phototrophic. You just said that. You just triggered something when you said that, right? Yeah. So there's some trees and some leaves that grow up towards the sun. And so, that's still a leadership principle that, and this whole month, I've just been thinking about leadership. This whole month I've been thinking about leadership. There's some friends I want to talk about. I want to have this big round table of wise people talk about leadership, and I want you included, And so there's a thing about leadership that I kind of share a lot, basic leadership principles that I share about the 5 F's. So you guys heard it before, the 5 F's: the faith, family, friends, fitness, and finances, right? Basic leadership. So what are some of the basic leaderships that you have? Because I know you're part of Delaware Leadership. Oh my God, let's give them a shout out. Can you give them a shout out?
Yeah. So it's Leadership Delaware. I just want to shout out all my people. Shout out to Legacy 23, to my cohort. And, best class ever. I'd be wrong not to say that. But I just want to shout my people out. Everybody doing big things in the state, all over the state. And that's the thing. We got folks from Kent County, Newcastle County, Sussex County, and everybody is doing big things.
Wow. So what is the I'm going to say core value. What is the mission or the vision of Leadership Delaware?
So one of the big things about Leadership Delaware is they always say, give us your best and we'll make them exceptional. So the thing is everybody, the thing is not to get it confused with just merely a leadership development program. The way I see it, it's more so leadership application, where you are placed in situations where you have to do things that a leader does. You come and you see different leaders that are set before you, right? And they tell you different things from different situations, from different careers, okay? And one of the biggest things that we talk about too is emotional intelligence, where, if you are a leader, you will be put in situations where you have to handle yourself accordingly.
Yes.
Okay. There may be days where we have certain sessions where we have speakers, and in the morning you will have somebody who supports pro-life. And then in the afternoon, we'll have somebody who supports pro-choice. And then later on, we're going to debrief and we're going to talk about it.
Wow.
And of course, even in this country, we're in a divided country, as you know.
Divided country.
And the thing is, people can't agree on anything. But however, what do you do if you have somebody who does not agree with you? If you come across somebody here, let's say you are a black man, you love God, and you love your wife, and let's say somebody walks into the room and they are an atheist, and they are gay, and they are racist. Okay, yet they can teach you how to make $1 million or how to start your own business. Are you immediately going to say, no way, I'm not going to listen to you?
I like that.
Then you would not be able to start your own business or perform at whatever it is you want to accomplish.
Because you'll be lacking that emotional intelligence.
Absolutely.
And possibly ignorant emotional intelligence. I mean, I like that scenario that you shared, because a lot of times people need to we need to understand, we need to be able to learn from other people, learn from people who are not like us, who don't look like you, who don't talk like you, maybe who don't have the same core values that you have. That's why we're talking about leadership. We want people to be able to go through and have the capacity. We had a couple of guests here before, and some of the themes was capacity, both believing and building your capacity. Can I sit down next to someone who don't believe like me, or who don't understand like me, or who even hate me? Yeah, I should be able to learn something. I should be teachable. My whole life, my prayer has been that I wanted to be teachable. So I'm still learning from my daughter. That's something she said. I'm like, what, man? That came from the heavens. She does that. I better take that if I want to be successful in my life. But go ahead. I just want to interject that, because that was so powerful, because a lot of times, especially in this divided country, you can see a lot of the lack of an emotional intelligence that people have.
It's crazy. You have people, especially in social media, you have family members, you have best friends, you have brothers and sisters that are cutting each other off and canceling each other over merely political party sides. And the thing is what people fail to understand is you don't necessarily always need to learn what to do from somebody. You can also learn what not to do.
Yeah.
And that's just as crucial, especially for whatever it is you're trying to accomplish,
Every time that I had a debate, every time I had just words and conversations, even if I was very strong in my opinion, I'd leave room. I leave room for the gaps, because they actually showed me my gaps. Kevin, that's a gap there, there's a gap there. I'm like, okay, well, I need to fill those gaps in. Or maybe that gaps in ignorance. Maybe I need to pick up another book. So what's the leadership quality? Now you shared that. So that was some of the leadership principles that you guys learned there, right? Absolutely. So what do you see as a lack for fathers and men? Well, men and fathers in leadership. especially going through that class?
Oh, yeah. So one thing that I definitely learned is listening. How crucial it is to merely listen. You come across so many people today, especially people that always have something to say. They want to get their opinion out there. They don't want to listen to you. They just want to wait to speak, wait to talk. and it merely, I'm not even going to listen to what you're saying. I'm just going to tell you what I'm trying to get my point across. And in the end, we learn nothing. And that's one thing I can say in Leadership Delaware. We had some debriefs, and debriefs. They were all closed door. And you get 30 some people. You get, I think we had 29 in our class. So you get 29 people. Not everybody's going to agree. And we've had some heated debriefs. However, the cool thing about it is, throughout the process, we were able to allow each other to say, you know what? Okay, I don't agree with you, but give me your side.
I love that.
Give me your point of view so I can understand. I may not agree with you, but at least allow me to understand where you're coming from.
Understanding. Wow. There's been some times that I've talked with my wife, and I've talked to different people, and we may have differed on an opinion, and they say, well, Kevin, what do you think about that? Well, I think this A, or I think this B. And they was like, okay, well, and I said, well, this is a school of thought. This is another school of thought, right? So I want to hear Kevin's school of thought. Well, I'm still chewing on that. I'm still romanticizing those kind of things. So just like you're saying, I like to sit in a room with people who think differently, because they give me another school of thought. They give me another mindset, and then I can take that to my daughter and share with her. Here's some other school of thoughts of this subject, and it makes me wealthy in knowledge and understanding, and it builds our emotional intelligence.
Indeed.
All right. Oh my God. So speaking of daughters, I was talking about my daughter, Layla J. I give you a shout out, Layla J. What are some of the things that you share with your daughter? Leadership principles, because I know you do that.
Yes.
I know you and your wife both.
So,
know that.
So one of the biggest things that we are, I don't want to say dealing with, but working with my daughter right now currently is the ability to work through the hard things. That's what we call it. Working through the hard things. My daughter right now, she's 8 years old, and she's under the impression that every single thing she does, she'll be perfect at it. So the moment she does it and realizes she's not perfect, it's the end of the world. We don't want to do it anymore. Get that out of our face. And it's like, no, young lady. What we're going to do is you're going to practice. You're going to work at this. You're going to see it through. Not everything's supposed to be easy. There's a lot of times you're going to come to things that are hard.
No.
And you're going to have to learn how to manage it. So you know what? If you need to cry.
Cry it out.
That's okay. But guess what? Right now she's doing piano lessons. So, man, she will cry and snot all over those piano keys. But guess what? All right. Now get right back on it.
Get right back on it. Wow. This is something. That's one thing that I'm been talking with my daughter about. See, she looks at my wife and I, because we know a lot of people. We know a lot of people from up and down the East Coast, the West Coast, Seattle, even in other countries, in Ireland, we know people. And so she thinks that, her dad and her mom are celebrities. And I'm like, we're not celebrity. We just know people. We get north of 50, you know what I'm saying? You know some people type of thing. And so navigating her through that, she's not just the average child. She's not the average child. So how do you deal with that? Because you're one of Delaware's finest. You're royalty of Delaware. So how does she handle that? Because you're known up and down the whole state. All three counties. So how do you handle that? Because she's not the average daughter.
No. I do my best to always communicate with her. I'm realizing now it's different for me because she's not raised the way that I was. So my dad, he worked at a prison. So he was working with the Green Tree program. So there were many nights when my dad came home late. And he worked night shift a lot, so usually I really didn't see him often until Saturday mornings. My mom, she had board meetings, and she was also in grad school. So, there's some nights where I didn't really see her. Okay. So the thing was with my daughter, when she doesn't see us, and she's like, "Where are you? What are you doing? Like, where are you going? Well, who's that person?" And you have to explain it. Well, you know what? Right now,
communication.
This is what Daddy's doing. And right now, daddy's doing this for us. Daddy's doing this for the family so that we can grow, so that we can do this. So daddy's going out to help people. Okay, daddy's helping people so that they can accomplish their dreams and magnify their crafts, you know?
Yes.
So this way it can instill that confidence in her so that she said, well, I can do that too, right? Absolutely. Absolutely. And guess what? Daddy's here to help you do that too.
Wow. So as the royalty that you are, you're the king, your wife's the queen, your daughter's the princess, and you're raising her in a way that she'd be able to handle life. She's able to handle the dark realms, like I'm saying. So what were some of your experiences? Let me back up. What were some of your male experiences, father, grandfather, uncles, in leadership?
So I got most of my biggest experiences were with my father, my track coach, Kevin Fauntleroy, my father, Dennis Spence, Sr., my father-in-law. They were some of my biggest influences, mostly, and there was a lot of things that I took from them, especially my track coach. I mean, he would yell and cuss us out. And there's sometimes I'd be so angry with him. One day I wanted to fight my track coach. He was two times bigger than I was, but I didn't care.
Yeah.
But I remember he told me, he said, if you can deal with what I'm telling you, you will have no problem with any employer. No boss will faze you ever. And I will forever remember that. And still, my cage is not rattled easily.
He gave you a fatherhood principle.
Absolutely.
What did you learn from your father?
So my dad, like I said, he worked at the prison at James T. Vaughn prison. He worked there.
I did a lot of work there.
Yeah. So he dealt with a lot of men, and he was a correction officer, and then he became a correctional counselor. So he helped a lot of men get out of jail. So, there was often times where, he would kind of, school me a little bit here and there. But my dad, the thing that I loved about my dad was he allowed me to grow. He let me spread my own wings. Okay. Especially as I got older. I remember the day he told me, he said, all right, you're 16. So you can go out and you can hang out with your friends and you can stay out as long as you like. He said, but don't let me catch you at my job. And if you have any incidents with the police, you better not call me.
Wow.
And that's all I needed.
He gave you the bound.
Yeah.
He gave you the ground rules and the boundary line.
Yes. Like he didn't threaten me. He didn't say, I'm going to do this. No, that's all he told me. And I kid you not, I was like, no problem. If I was going to be out late, I called him, hey, Pop, I'm here. And he was like, all right, be safe.
Wow. So you're married.
Yes, sir.
How long have you been married?
We have been married for, this is 12 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Been married for 12 years. So when you knew that your wife has become a mother, y'all was going to become parents, how did that shift you? Or did it?
It did. I was doing a lot before we were married. Like I was, doing a couple business endeavors here and there, and really like not home a lot. Okay. And I remember I was talking with one of my business partners, and I told him, I said, hey man, look, I'm gonna have to step back from this.
Wow.
And it's like I love what I do, but I'm gonna have to step back from this because right now I got a little girl coming, and I want to be there.
Wow.
And he was cool with it. He was like, you know what, I appreciate it. You're man enough to tell me this, so I will support you. And that was the best thing. He supported me. He supported my decision. He wasn't like, oh God, you're just gonna leave me out here. No, he supported my decision, and that helped me tremendously. I moved differently, especially from the standpoint of, okay, I got to do things differently, especially regarding how I talk to her mother. I mean, not saying like I was talking reckless or anything,
like this,
but still you have to talk in a manner whereas, okay, I'm being watched. Okay. And what I need to do is I need to set the example so that this way she'll understand how when she grows up to be a young woman, needs to be talked to. And I kid you not, I'm not perfect. There's times where, I may forget, but at the end of the day, I still have to like bring myself back to say, okay, be mindful of how you talk to her mother, because she's watching that and she's learning that. She's taking that in.
Wow. That's amazing. I love that. Speaking of watching, there was a story. There's a story about this. There's a story about this father was taking his daughter to a school. Right? Take his daughter to school at her first day in high school. But he took her to a high school outside of her city. So not the people that she didn't grow up with. She didn't grow up with the people, but she went to a Caucasian school, and those who were really well-to-do in another city. And so when she saw all those kids getting out their cars and getting out those type of cars, she looked at her father really intimidating and was like, Dad, why are you taking me here? Why are you taking me here? He said, I'm taking you here so that you can learn what they know, and then you could bring it back here to me. You're watching her. You let your daughter know. You're showing her, not just telling her, you're showing how she should be treated.
Absolutely.
How she should be treated, how a man should be treated. There's been times that I talked to my daughter, and my daughter got mad at me, right? She got mad at me, or she did some slick talk, whatever, and then I yelled at her, and the way I yelled at her, I had the wrong tone, right? So instead of me correcting her, instead of me connecting with her first before correcting her, I yelled at her. I felt so bad. When she went back upstairs, I called her back down. I was like, I'm sorry. I was correct in what I was saying. Mm-hmm. But I had the wrong tone. So I did that a couple of times, apologizing. I had to apologize to my daughter a couple of times so that she knows that a man and a father can apologize and can make things right. I made things right with her. And so that she understands about manhood. So she was like, well, I know my daddy. I know my father. I know he's the preacher, but he can still come down and apologize.
Yep.
He still come down and apologize. I know when it's wrong because I know that, like you said, she's watching. Now, what do you think is missing? Do you think anything is missing? How you were raised by your father versus what you see now? You see in culture, in society?
Absolutely. One of the things that I know my dad really, he didn't communicate things as well. He held a lot of things in. My father suppressed a lot of things. And another thing that I noticed, his father did the same. They'd say suppress stuff. He would go to his room by himself and stew. Mm-hmm. There was times when he would, my father would stew on things, and every now and then it would explode. And that's where the issue is. My father, he passed away in 2021 of cardiac arrest.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, man. And that like a lot of those things, it made me think about that suppression and all parts of, your health and how you have to get certain things out, express yourself in your emotion. I know it's difficult as men, when we say, you got to express your feelings and get it out, but it's a thing. You have to do it. You have to get it out.
I think we're breaking that norm from generation to generation. So was there anything that you learned from the transition of your father? Any lessons that you learned about his life, and did some stories, some memories come? Did you have to pivot from some things, or through his transition?
I had to pivot through a lot of things with my health. So I learned that when my father he passed away from cardiac arrest, and then I found out that two of his brothers both had heart attacks. Mm-hmm. And one of his sisters was born with an abnormal heart when she was born. So that made me think, you should start checking your health, buddy, and start, going to the doctor. Hey, you know what? I need you to keep an eye on my heart and make sure that, everything's running smoothly. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And, that was the big thing.
Wow.
My wife, she pointed out some things about my dad that she's like, you should express yourself a little bit more. And, I was doing it, but there were times where I actually had to break it down, and I had to tell my wife, say, I noticed that there's times when you may want me to do something, and you may say it in a certain manner, mm-hmm. and then you get mad because I don't respond the way you want me to. And I say, well, actually, if you want me to respond a little bit better, say it like this. Mm-hmm. This is how I need you to talk to me.
I like that.
If you want me to accomplish the things that you need me to do, not just throwing out, I'll take the trash out and say, hey, you're like, babe, can you do this for me?
It's funny. I just had a conversation not too long ago about men do not want to be micromanaged. We don't want to be supervised. But if we're the head and our wives are the neck, there's a suaveness that you kind of share and communicate. Men, we love our wives. We'll do anything. We buy them cars. We pay the mortgage. We do all kind of stuff for them. But if you just say it nicely, just say it in a way, I'll do it. I'll go out and we'll do it. We'll, not just I. Mr. Fontaine, he'll do it. You'll do it.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? We'll do it. But there's a way of communicating. I love that. I think the emotional intelligence, having the capacity to understand, also making decisions under pressure. That means, a lot of times when we say under pressure, it means like, oh, you got to pay this, you got to pay that. No, under pressure means that you got a couple of things going on at the same time, right? And you got to make wise decisions. So sometimes, you may have to put off that decision till tomorrow. Let me sleep on that type of thing, and not letting the pressure build you up and you yelling at everybody in the house, you going in the room, going to slamming doors, type of thing. And I think that's, I think we've done better as men, with Generational X, they start going through, we started getting coaches, we started getting mentors. We're going through therapy.
Therapy, most definitely.
We're going through therapy now, and it's funny. I mean, our grandparents and godfathers, they'd be turning over their grave right now. They knew it. We was going to therapy. Yeah. You going to therapy? Where you going? You better get out there and go to work. That's what they would say. Get out there and go to work. But something I wanted to share with you too. I want you to share about some more. Your father. Was there any more lessons that you could have learned from him besides the health and anything? Anything along those lines.
So, something that I can say, I definitely, grew in my spirituality. I grew in God from my father. He was heavily spiritual. He was a man in an apostolic church. So, I mean, he was heavy. He was heavy on it. So I'll be honest. And when I was young, I didn't quite understand. And that turned me away. When I went to college, I wanted nothing to do with church folks. I was like, man, y'all can miss me with that. But, when I came back, the cool thing about it was my dad, I was willing to say, hey, Dad, I read up on something about King David. And I thought that was pretty dope. Can you talk to me about it? He was like, yeah. Like, he was all for it. And then that was the thing. My dad eventually became my sounding block where I could talk to him. But hey, you know what? I read up on, anything, Solomon, Joab, anybody, Nehemiah. And it could be a nice little back and forth to that. That became our little talk. And it was no aggressiveness. There was no debating. It was just hey, let's just learn together. And he pulled his Bible out.
Wow.
And I like that because the thing was that right there really taught me, compassion. So the fact that, hey, he was willing to sit down and actually, he really cared about something that I cared, and he was willing to really nurture and help me grow in that. You know what I'm saying? Especially the mere fact that he was, just as knowledgeable in it. So he was willing to, he was a teacher.
And fathers are nurturers.
Indeed.
Fathers are nurturers. I remember my first year when I was overseas, second year I was overseas, and I was in the Air Force. I had called my father, and I told him, I grew up in the church, and everything too, and I kind of just did my own thing. And after I got older, I did the 40s and all that kind of stuff, right, back in the day. But the thing is, I gave my father a call, and I said, you know what? I'm starting to do some studying. We all knew about the 5% Nation. We all knew about 5%ers, and we all knew about Islam. So I was sharing that with him, and he had the bandwidth to hear me out. And him being a preacher, he had that patience, he had that capacity that he could listen to his son share without beating me down in conversation. I remember I was overseas on payphone. He called him collect probably type of thing. And you know what he said? His response was, he was like, you know what? I know your temperament, and I know you. Whatever you choose, whatever path you go, because I know you're going to do well in it. And I kept that till the day. And that was in 1988. We had that conversation.
Wow.
And even to this day, that impacted me. And I bring it up to him every once in a while when we talking. I watched my father I watched my father as a young man growing up, right? I watched my father, talk to my mother. Watch him how he talked to my sisters. I watched my father how he did my sister's hair when mother was in the hospital and all that kind of stuff. So I watched him cook. My father actually is a better cook. He gonna watch us too. He was a better cook than my mother. They both talk about that. Better cook, but she cooked most of them anyway. But she did cakes with him. So I watched him throughout my life, and I watched him just this past Christmas, getting older. I watched how he navigated through that. So I'm learning by watching that man. Like he's my blueprint. There's other blueprints. There's other mentors and coaches in my life that I see and pattern and for different things, finances and spirituality and every pastor should have a pastor, all that kind of stuff. So that was something that I'm learning from him now. So what were some of the mentors? Who were some of the mentors and coaches in your life? I know you're such a father, and I know you're such a coach, but even to this day, that have made an impact in your life.
I had a mentor, and you may knew him, Dr. Calvin Wilson.
Yes.
Yeah. So he was a good mentor of mine. Still talking. Was talking.
He's a
to him
doctor.
a couple days. Yeah. Talked to him a couple days ago, and he definitely taught me certain things that I can do in my life to kind of get me through life. Especially regarding when you are going towards success. He got me into reading more books. He kind of emphasized in me things like the power of spoken word. Okay, like a lot of people think that spoken word is kind of corny. To say things out loud, like what they say is, well, you speak it into the universe or speak it into the atmosphere and it will manifest. Well, Jesus said that. Speak to your mountain.
Yes.
Okay.
I like that.
People talk about it in like, what's that book, The Secret? It's like, no, it's not a secret.
No, it's not.
It's definitely not a secret. Speaking life into your life daily.
Wow.
That's something Dr. Wilson did teach me about, looking in the mirror, talking to yourself, talking positive to yourself, and speaking affirmations, speaking God's word. And believing it, and that's the thing to make sure that, just doing that over and over consistently and watching how eventually watch these things manifest.
They're going to manifest. There's a quote, and I kind of love this quote. I'm not going to say her name because I know she's the originator of the quote, but I heard her say it. Powerful lady. She said that talking is not for communication. Talking is for creation.
Indeed. I mean,
we communicate, we talk, but if we can actually be intentional with our words to think about creating things. You're creating an image right now in your home by the way you talk to your wife in front of your daughter. So if all fathers can do that same thing, then we're creating a good atmosphere, an atmosphere of shalom, peace, atmosphere of acceptance, an atmosphere of love, atmosphere of forgiveness. I'm sorry, babe. I shouldn't have said that to you like that, whatever. That kind of atmosphere brings peace and love and nurturing. A lot of people say that women are the nurturers. They ain't the only ones. We supposed to nurture too. We nurture the whole house.
Indeed.
And this right here, I believe this is a nurturing session also for us men.
Most definitely.
And fathers. Can you give me some ways that you nurture? You should give us some more thing. Give the FCC community, Fathers Coach community, some nuggets on nurturing, how you nurture.
Most definitely. So, for instance, like I said, my daughter, she does piano. And the thing is of course, all she lives in is the right now. All she lives in is I'm struggling. It's like, okay, guess what, babe? You are doing great though. Look how far you've come. Look how far you've improved. Look how good you're doing. Like, you're doing things Daddy could never imagine that he could do. And I believe that kind of puffs her up when I say, you're doing better than I am. And the fact that she, in her mind, can comprehend that, wow, I can do something that my father cannot do. So, of course, our children, all they do is they see us as these superheroes.
Yes.
And when they see that, wow, there's something that I can do that my parents cannot do, wow. It's like, yeah, babe, keep going. And to be the biggest fan and the biggest cheerleader along the way, and just keep pouring in. I always say my favorite line I always say is to pour gasoline on fire, and just let it just grow. Just let it grow.
Let it grow. I love this. You're a man of vision. As you're just talking in this whole episode right here, leadership and fatherhood and everything, but you're a man of vision. I see that. And when I captured that in my mind, a vision, I was thinking about, Nabisco, Toyota, those Asian companies, how the average Asian company have their business plans is about 100 to 200 years. That's their average business plan. So they already think vision. They're already thinking 100 years. Here in the United States, to get a loan for a business plan, you only need 5-year business plan? Well, what about year 6? What happens year 7, year 8? And as men of vision, and as fathers of vision, I think we need to start thinking at least 100 years. We need to start talking to our daughters. When I'm talking to my daughter, you talk to your daughter, we're talking for the next 100 years. So I'm talking to her, I'm talking through her. So I'm actually sharing it in a way. So I'm actually talking to her, and I'm actually creating for her children and her children's children. So that's of course the emotional intelligence, finances. Start thinking about economies, not just the economy where you live, East Coast. Start thinking about economies in other countries. Start thinking about those kind of things. We need to impart that vision into our families, of course, but also into our children and our children's children. That's one of our situations. That's one of our commands. To deal with. I forget the scripture, but it talks about. I'll train up your child the way she go, not that one, but the one, your children's children. But I'm going to go with this one. This is the first commandment to mankind. The first commandment to mankind is to be fruitful, multiply, replenish, subdue, and have dominion. So we got to be fruitful. We got to be fruitful and multiplying, and having vision is a multiplying factor.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you for coming today. I want to thank you for even sharing some of that leadership Delaware juice and sharing your juice, man. I definitely want you to actually share whatever you want to share. If you want to do another piece, or you just want to just give a last word to my people.
Yeah, I can share. Matter of fact, I do got a piece on fatherhood.
Please do it.
I could share that.
Please.
You can share it. I'll have to read it.
It's okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We're going to get some juice, some oil in here.
Indeed. All right. My beard came when my daughter was born, as if the presence of her being stimulated the follicles that lay dormant on my cheeks. Children of the night that wish not to be kissed by the sun, rejecting the warming love of its rays, but rays they did indeed. That moment my seed sprouted on October 15th. The armor upon my jawline took notice, understanding a new man awaits, a different man, one that will experience a new kind of feeling, a feeling that can only be seen as joy. Seen as joy. Seen as joy. Because what cannot be seen is this new kind of fear that will enter into the depths of my thoughts. A new kind of uneasiness created from an old kind of karma that never forgets. A new kind of fear that I may not live up to being the man she needs me to be. This cloaking device upon my face is my greatest feature. It protects me from the misconception that can be revealed by my features. Concealer of the wrinkles of my frustration, safety net to my tears, weighted blanket to cover the quivers of lips that say I love you and I will always be here for you even when I know one day I won't be. Mirage to the concern of the unknown, that I must let her spread her wings and fly in her own atmosphere without the ceiling-clad limitations of my own fears. the natural God-given war paint to express the readiness and willingness to protect her with my life. This is my uniform. Distinguished are the silvery streams that have been slowly formulating at the estuaries of my epidermis. I welcome every one strand of wisdom, for it helps me every day, walks me through the murky swamps of the expectations of society, through the paradoxical shadows that whisper for me to be a man, while from miles away the moon throws me my manliness in my phases, bullied to not talk about it, meanwhile urged to express my feelings, and still demanded to shut up because my mental issues will never measure to others. Well, this is me talking about it. I'm not always okay, and sometimes I have no choice but to be okay with that. So I stroke my beard and I think of my little girl. Now she will never know the naked-faced boy whose hands held her when she came into this world, but instead the man she now loves, the one whose adolescent strands she would pull on and nibble as a toddler, the one who possesses a soft black scabbard for his chin that tickles her neck in the morning with kisses. Thank you, little queen in training, for accepting me as your dad. There is no other title I love and enjoy more than being your father.
Thank you for joining the Father's Coach podcast. This was excellent. I'm telling you, you got to share this. You got to share this episode right here to everyone that you know, up and down the East Coast, to India, to Ireland, to the UK, to Africa. Welcome again to the Father's Coach podcast. Kevin L. Kelly, your host.